everyone.
Hej Sasha, Dirk,
Hi.
Robert.
I am based in Cape Town, South Africa.
Oh.
And if you're in the States, you're probably just starting your day.
I am. Fati's on Central European time, right? CET?
Yeah.
Yeah, I work for a German company, so I understand CET. I think they're an hour behind us. Yeah.
I barely understand it. I can't even get the time zone straight in the United States. I'm clueless.
You have daylight savings, right? Oh, that would throw me off completely.
I don't know what I have. I just look at my watch and it tells me where to go. I gave up.
Yeah, I cheat. I just use this thing called Fox Clocks in my Firefox browser. And then every time I meet someone from a different nation, I just add that nation or that city to my Fox Clocks. And then I'm like, I'm sorted.
Yeah, world clock on my phone, and it's
Yeah, it's the best. Oh, that's classic.
I'm good at math, terrible at arithmetic. So that's
Thank goodness there's other people who can cover you.
oh yeah. Well, just right, Larry Wall said there's 3 virtues of a good software engineer: laziness, impatience, and hubris. And
oh yeah, you need humor, that's for sure. Cool. Yeah, I use a lot of humor in my work too. You have to, otherwise you go mad.
Yeah. Oh no, the last one was hubris, pride.
Oh, I thought you said humor.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
That too. Need them both.
Yeah, you need them both.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just in case. I'm in travel mode. I have no idea from where my sound comes. So yeah.
How's DevRelCon? How's Prague?
Awesome. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of people. There are something like 150 DevRels. Taken that we have this community, whatever summit in Japan, and also DevOps Munich happening in parallel. It's great. And there's actually a lot of conversations about community building problems, and especially how DevRel should proceed in the modern environment. I mean, post-COVID, financial crisis, and how things should operate. So there is definitely a lot of takeaways from there.
Okay, hello everyone. So I will facilitate for today. So let me share. Hopefully you can see the screen and you can hear me. Yes, okay, cool. All right. I guess it's 2 past, so it's probably a good time to start. I see a lot of the folks in the meeting today. All right, so welcome everyone to the CDF TOC meeting. Today is December the 6th, and as usual, feel free to sign yourself in either the attendees list or other attendees list on the notes. Just put the link to the notes in the chat in case. Oh, but you done it already. Thank you. Sorry, my name is Andrea Frittoli. I work for IBM, represent Tecton CD Events project here. So we have a couple of things on the agenda for today. Some news, discussion about TOC meetings, CD Events project update, and Go SCM presentation. So quite a few things, but if you have other topics, feel free to add them to the agenda as we go. All right, Ollie, you want to get started?
Yeah, just wanted to share a few news. Yeah, as you may have seen, I've been less available in the recent months. So there are many reasons for that, personal ones, also work assignments and priorities, etc. Last week, we had a conversation with Fatih and Stephen Chin about the future of the TOC. And what was communicated by Stephen and Fatih that they expect someone to make a full-time commitment, including time and effort, to push the CDF forward and push the technical oversight committee forward. And I agree with this approach for a foundation like CDF to succeed. It definitely needs a lot of project management. So we discussed it many times at governance meetings, at TOC meetings, that we actually need assistance. And yeah, maybe a CDF TOC chair could be one doing that. At the same time, I'm not ready to commit to that. I cannot dedicate enough time. As I said in August to all TOC members, my capacity is limited. I did it before the elections, and nobody else stepped out at that point. So I continued with a goal to actually do transition and handover. But yeah, taking the conversation we had, I decided that I stepped down immediately from the CDF TOC. I wish the CDF good luck with finding a new TOC chair. And well, first of all, I'm stepping down as TOC chair. I will stay on TOC as a Jenkins representative. I will be helping with delivering agenda, will be representing projects. I will be participating in the action items that I took and in the efforts I'm interested in. And of course, I will help with all the transition and elections should it be needed. But at the same time, yes, for me, effective immediately, I resign from this role. And yeah, if you have any questions, why, etc., you're welcome to reach out in DM to me. So I guess, yeah, this summarizes news from me. And thanks a lot, Andrea, for hosting this meeting. Again, I apologize that I was less available than someone might have expected before. So I will probably share details maybe later in a few months why it happened. But for now, yeah, these are the news. Okay, and thanks all.
Thanks, Oleg, for sharing the news, and well, thanks for all the service you've done to the TOC and the CDF, and of course, yeah, I'm glad that you will stay representing the Jenkins project at least. So
well, I will probably do a bit more in advocacy because yeah, I'm super excited about what happens with outreach committee with Lori joining. I will also be able to speak more freely about my concerns about the CDF because before, when I had a governing board membership role, I was restricted in some regards. Now, since I will be just a TC member, I hope that my feedback will be actually more helpful than me doing regular updates to the governing board, etc. So for me, I consider it as net positive. At the same time, yeah, please do not expect a lot of activities from me in the coming 2 months at least.
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, thanks, Oleg, and thanks for your service, and thanks for the transparency.
Yeah, thanks all for your support. Yeah, some of you know what happens, so yeah.
Just to add to what Oleg said, Oleg, thank you very much for everything you have done for CDF and all the other communities you engaged. And I can't state how much I appreciate your efforts. When it comes to next steps, maybe we can take the same process as the last chair meeting, and we can create an issue on GitHub, foundation repo, and share the link in TOC mail list as well as TOC Slack channel. So if any of the current TOC members are available or interested to put up their nominations, we can do that directly under the issue. You will see example there as well. And then we can share the election timeline directly on the issue as well, so you can see when the election or nomination period is kicked off, when it closes, and when the election period starts and when it ends. So please keep an eye on the mail list as well as on Slack channel.
Yeah, another thing that currently there is ongoing discussion between Fatih, Stephen, and me, what is actually expected from the TOC chair. So one thing that generally there are different expectations on what it was before and what is going to be next. So yeah, my advice is that before you commit, actually review all the things. And yeah, there is a lot of TOC members that are happy to support you when stepping up with this role. You will definitely get a lot of support. At the same time, yeah, it seems to be quite significant commitment to going forward. Yeah, so yeah, for the timeline, yeah, if anything needed, governance-wise, etc., we can discuss how it happens. But yeah, for the next meetings, I will basically do the same. Paul, who is able to host the meeting. I'm not sure when the next meeting happens because of the holiday season. But yeah, if it happens until mid-January, it's safe assumption that I wouldn't be able to host it because of other commitments.
And I had a question. I know we were talking about a co-chair. Are we going to move forward with that or just look for a single chairperson?
I don't know.
Yeah, that is, we have an issue on GitHub about that. And Andrea, I think, put a comment there. Instead of having two equal co-chairs, maybe having chair and vice chair type of approach would make sense. Our proposal is we discussed this, me and Michelle, because the updates to the charter is still with legal. We can start with chair election first, and based on what we get from the legal about the updates to the charter, we can present it to the TOC and then to board. And if everyone is okay with the wording and the roles and responsibilities, we can make the vice chair official and then have an election for vice chair, or we stay with chair. But yeah, that is like we pinged the legal this week, but we are still waiting a response.
Got it. All right, just checking where we were on that. And
yeah,
thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else then on the new chair election? So I wrote Fatih that you would create an issue to kick this off. Is that right? Okay. Okay, and then I guess brings us to what you were just mentioning, Oleg. So upcoming TOC meetings. So I don't know who entered this in the agenda, if it was you, Oleg, or Fatih. But yeah, I guess we need to confirm whether we're going to have this meeting and whether people is going to be able to attend. Is that the intention?
Yeah, normally, like I think I added this topic, like normally people take like last week or two vacations and first week of New Year's vacation. So this is like which meetings are happening or not, so we can create the new meeting series based on the feedback from TOC. So if we are keeping December 20th and January 3rd meetings or not.
Okay. I know folks want to mark their interest here on the agenda, or alternatively, I can send a poll. We can make a poll on Slack or send an email to the distribution list and see if people is able to attend. I probably wouldn't be able to attend on January the 3rd, I expect, but I'll probably be available on the other 2 dates.
I'm the same way. The December 20th would work for me, but the 3rd would not. But and the 17th. Exactly.
Sorry, yeah. Okay. Well, we can collect this information We don't need to spend more time on this today. But yeah, if you can add it as when you know, so we can decide whether to have a meeting or not. And okay, we already feels like January the 3rd, we might probably cancel, but okay, let's see. All right, next, we are resuming starting presentation for project updates from the different project hosted at the CDF. So the idea is to get an update to the TOC from the various projects hosted by the foundation with what's going on with the project, any news this we're sharing, and so the first presentation this week is CD events. So I prepared a couple of slides and for maybe 10-15 minutes maximum presentation, and then I can open for questions. So let me share the slides. Okay, if this looks familiar, it's because it's based on the roadmap landing talk from the CD Summit in Detroit. So, okay, so CD events, project updates, and roadmap. Just quickly, what is CD events? CD events is a common specification for continuous delivery events. So that's the core of the project, is a specification, but we also have SDKs and other pieces of content that we work on. So why CD events? I mean, the key word here is in interoperability. Interoperability in the CI/CD space for events. And there are two main use cases that we are looking to address right now. And one is the first one is event-driven workflows. So if you look at the picture on the left, we are starting from software configuration management tool, build tests, going through build, test, sign, deploy, and this can grow and be larger. And you could use events to drive your workflow, which means that from SCM, an event is sent, which triggers the build, testing, signing of artifacts, and that also triggers events that might trigger a deploy. And in the middle, you can have policies, so you can decide which events will trigger the next part of your workflow. And this, of course, means that your architecture is very decoupled, it's naturally scalable, it's very flexible, and it's policy-driven. And the second use case, it's really observability. So if all the tools in your tool chain that you use to build your workflow send events, then you can have someone that listens to all those events and provides services like metrics, so that you know, for instance, how well you're doing in your workflow execution or in your DevOps metrics. You can use these for notifications. You can use to provide like a single consistent view to your users across your distributed workflows. So moving on, then what's new? So at the CD Summit in Detroit, we announced CD Event 0.1 release. And in this release, what we implemented is events that belong to 4 different phases or buckets, specifically orchestration, software configuration management, CI, and CD. And the events that we have today, they provide enough data to calculate 2 of the DORA metrics, or DevOps metrics, namely the lead time for changes and the deployment frequency. And as part of this initial release, also we released a Go SDK, and we have a Python SDK, which is going to be available soon, and a Java SDK, which is work in progress. And so this is the content of the release that we made for the CD Summit in Detroit. And other things that we have been working since that release as a website refresh. So the cdevents.dev website, we really focus on target audiences, making sure that the content that we are presenting there is targeted to different type of readers, like people that is they're approaching CD events for the first time, as opposed to people that are implementing maybe CD events or interested in the specification. Also, we provide a simplified developer experience if someone wants to contribute to the specification of the website. And we put attention as well in terms of accessibility to make sure documentation is accessible, not only via a laptop, but also if you're using some kind of iPad or mobile phone. We continue working on the Java SDK. That's an important piece because it's important for integration into Spinnaker, which is written in Java, and also Fidelity. Fidelity is interested in CD events, and specifically they use Jenkins, which is also Java based, and that's why the Java SDK is key for these two integrations. For the specification, we're working on incidents and remediations type of events, discussing how we can connect different events together. And as I mentioned, we are working with the Spinnaker community to discuss what kind of events, CD events, Spinnaker would generate. Okay, so these are things going on right now, and we have many more on the roadmap. So supply chain security is a very important topic right now. So we want to enrich our data models to include things like a software bill of materials, provenance, signatures, and especially for the use case of distributed workflows, signed events will become relevant because you need to be able to trust the source of your workflow events. Then we want to expand the scope that we have from the 4 buckets that we have today to the end-to-end supply chain, so including things like requirements, releases, productions, that means also incidents or remediations. And so new features that will be coming in associated with these are things like compositions and maybe links, workflow IDs we're discussing for connecting events with each other. And yeah, so we also are interested in more SDKs that we have today and doing some work to facilitate like policy-driven workflows. In terms of data model, we want to what we want to do is to enrich the existing SCM events and test events for sure. And there is work that we want to do in terms of documentation. So to have some more architecture diagram and examples of how to use CD events. And so what does the CD events community look like? So there is work that we want to do to better align with the other SIGs in the CDF. So we're looking at the interoperability SIG, supply chain, and best practices to work with them to make sure we align in terminology that we use within the events, but also like broader scope, like what are the buckets that we should cover so that we align with the work that is done there. We want to target a number of different communities for implementation now that we have a release. So we are working with Tecton and Spinnaker. And we definitely have interest from Shipwright, Jenkins, Nginx, and we want to reach out to tools like Flux and Argo as well. We have a number of companies involved, whether contributing or interested. So sure, Ericsson, IBM, Red Hat, 2While, Apple, they've been contributing. VMware as well, and there is interest from companies like Fidelity and SAS. And I think Google was interested as well in terms of the 4 key projects for the DORA metrics. So as you can see, there are a few things that we're doing now, a lot of communities that we want to reach out to, a lot of features and things that we want to do. So my message would be get involved. we need help in different areas for city events, for specification, for implementation of SDKs, existing ones, but also new ones like Rust, JavaScript, Ruby, C#, and so forth. We need help reaching out to the different tool communities, getting implementation there, implementing proofs of concepts, and helping end users that want to try city events out. Yeah, and that's all for my updates. I will share these slides and some links. I hope that was useful. Or
Yes,
It was.
good.
Did you say that Justin has a question? Oh, there's Justin.
Hi, yeah. So I saw that we're expanding the scope of CD events to include things like requirements. And I suspect we're not the first people who want to standardize what requirements look like. How is CD events thinking about prior art?
Yeah, that's a great question. So far, we just discussed that's something that we want to add to our scope, but we didn't really start tackling that area in details. Something that's for sure is that we want to stay in line as much as possible with any discussion in this area that is done within the SIGs in the CDF, so we don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Cool, thanks.
Sorry, not the best answer.
We don't know yet is a great answer.
It's great to see how far the seed events has come along. Nice job to the whole team there. Really moving things along quicker than I was expecting, because I know trying to get people to agree on things can be really challenging.
Thanks, Steve. Robert, you want to?
Yeah, thank you. Great update. Looks awesome. I really appreciate it. Question I have is, do you have a demo right now where I could go and look at a video, the platonic ideal of CD events working with some CD tool, reporting that, you know, hey, this CD tool did something and look, it showed up over here? Or was that included in .1, or is that waiting until .2?
We have POCs, proofs of concepts. The one that we have today, they need to be updated, I guess, to the version, to the 0.1 version. So that's a great question, because that's something that, I mean, we discussed that we want to have this kind of showcase, and that's part of what I included under documentation and examples. Because exactly like you said, we would like to have like some videos or architecture diagrams where we show, like, if you want to use CD events for this use case, that's how you can do it. But yeah, so we have POCs, and I can point you to those, but we need to do work to kind of make them more easily accessible, you know, and yeah.
Well, the reason why I ask is I'm a huge fan of FOMO, fear of missing out. I think that's just a class A motivator, especially for software companies. And if CD Events was able to say, hey, look at CD product X working with CD Events and how cool that is, and giving them the limelight, that has a tendency to lead to the other CD providers saying, well, we could do that too. And that might be a way of encouraging that community growth that you wanted.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Yeah, that's great feedback. We have a few conference talks that we have done for, you know, to do this kind of advocacy that you're talking about, to see, like, to show things like Tecton working with Spinnaker or with Captain through CD events. And so we have this kind of demonstration done in a few talks, or we have a talk where we showed, like, using CD events to collect data to build your DORA metrics. But yeah, I think we need to do a better job of surfacing those, making them readily available on the website for people that are
Right.
approaching the project and want to see those. So that's great feedback.
Whenever we talk about a database at Liquibase, one of the other database vendors says, "Hey, why aren't you talking about us?" And we say, "Well, we'd love your help." And lo and behold, the help comes. So that's just for moving the community forward. If that's the big ask, and I'm certainly more than happy to help with that, and giving it some highlights, talking about it, those sorts of things. But let reach out over Slack and let's discuss how it can help.
Great, thanks, Robert.
Andrea, I have a quick question for you. At the top of your list of things that you need help with, things to be done, can you come up with, maybe your top 3 asks? Because I know it's always a struggle finding, reliable and continuous contributors, right? So I think it would be helpful just for us to know what to ask our communities for in order to bring more people to be involved in this project and be able to contribute more.
That's a great point, Melissa.
And I mean, that might be something, we could help as a team with all of our projects, really, but love to start with you.
I think it would be good to kind of template out some sort of like ask, like what is needed, like whether it's, if it's contributors, users, whatever, and then what area, because I saw you wanted to move into the Java space. And of course, like we have a huge, network in Java, but it's like, that's a big space. So what exactly, like anytime you can like refine things, and then we could put the project in front of an audience. And that goes for all of the projects. I think that would be good. And I think this is something that we're kind of going to talk about during the outreach meeting. But, if y'all could come up with the template that we can then share with the committee, that would be great.
So if I understand correctly, Lori, is that like a template that we build as a TOC to give project and say, okay, this is what we need for, like when we're doing outreach, to say what is needed for this project.
I think that would be great, because I think sometimes when you're in it, right, when you're in the weeds, you really don't know how to step out and say, oh, this is exactly what we're looking for. And I think if there's just some sort of template for people to go by, that's like, okay, if you're looking for a user, what kind of user? Like it's someone that does this, that does this, does this, and you can give people the criteria, then it helps you refine like what you're maybe missing in the project. And for, anybody that's going to advocate on your behalf, they can just say, okay, like, this project's looking for users, this one's looking for contributors, this one's looking for whatever. And I think, as the TOC, if y'all could, spearhead that of course it's a template, so it can be changed and made specific to each project. But I think that would really help the projects out, and then also like help anybody that's trying to advocate on that project's behalf, because they can just be like, oh, let me grab that doc or whatever and just say, hey, do you know anyone that fits this? Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I think it's easier for me to say that because I'm not technical. So like whenever you guys are like, oh, we need this, I'm completely lost. So I'm like, I need all the details. So, that's just why.
Hey, I don't want to hear I'm not technical. I don't want to, you work at a software company, you're technical. Okay, just stop. Don't want to hear it.
So Melissa, about your question, I think we would discuss with the rest of the city events and come up with our top 3.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I mean, as soon as you said, we're looking for other SDKs, I just immediately thought of communities that we could reach out to get some help with that, because I know the responsibility of being, the maintainer of it can get overwhelming, and we really need to, delegate some of this out and get more people involved.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like for instance, if one contributor was looking to do a GitHub action for CD events, and like the most natural language there would be JavaScript, because they have a good starting kit for JavaScript, but we don't have a JavaScript SDK. Or I'm thinking a project like Persia, if we did want to do some work with Persia and that's written in Rust, it would make sense to have an SDK in Rust. You know, it's easy to come up with new languages that make sense to have in the CD events list of SDK. So, but yeah, cool. Okay, well, thanks a lot for the great feedback on this. I think this was really useful for me and for the project.
I
A
think we had
question
one
from me, Emil there. Sorry, I was away a bit, so I couldn't really hear everything you said. But did you comment on Justin's question in the chat, or?
Yeah, I got the answer. The answer is it's still new. We don't know, and we'll talk to people.
Yeah, of course. So we will bring in every existing standard that exists, and I mean, refer to those and reuse those, of course, as possible. Sure. So good. And the same to Jim Chandler's the question then, I guess, as well. Yeah, looked into that as well. About the metric and Prometheus. Yeah. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah, did we
Okay.
skip the question, Jim Sheldon's question?
Oh,
How would X end up in a tool like Prometheus? Do we need an exporter?
okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Jim, for bringing it up. That's an area that we mentioned a few times. We don't have an answer for that. An answer to that yet. Basically, the one thought is CD events as a specification is not bound to any transfer specifically. I mean, the way that we are doing the specification is, okay, this is what are the fields that you can use to describe your events. And then we have a binding document and say, okay, well, this is how you format the CD events if you want to send a CD events through a cloud event. And that's kind of the main mean of transport that we have today is cloud events. So basically then cloud events provide us for the envelope, and CD events is the payload that is transported in there. And one option would be to have other kind of bindings. And one could be something like open telemetry, for instance. And then you would have you could add a CD event. Well, you could send it as part to Prometheus, or even I was thinking recently, you could send it as part of things like distributed tracing package, as I've seen use cases where people want to do a distributed tracing over a distributed workflow and get additional information along the steps. So you could have like CD events injected in there, if it makes sense.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. All right, I guess in the interest of time, we have another presentation today. So I would suggest moving on to the GoSCM presentation. I guess I need to stop sharing, right? If you want to share, Jim.
Sure, thanks. Yeah. Pick the right window. Here we go. Yeah, thanks everyone for the invite. My name is Jim. I'm a developer advocate at Harness. Harness, we're a software delivery lifecycle vendor. So we have services for all kinds of steps in software delivery pipelines. So Drone is an open source project that it's been around about 10 years, and the Go SCM library of Drone is the topic, and I am here. So this is the forum post that prompted this almost 3 years ago now, better late than never. So Christy Wilson from Google, from the Tecton team, reached out, wondering if the Go SCM library would be something that could be donated to something like the CDF. So that's what's led to me being here today. So to see if that's a possibility. So I can give you some background on the project. So the Go SCM library provides a unified interface to multiple SCM systems. I can get the list. This isn't the full list, but GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Git, and a few more. So it's been forked by Jenkins X at some point, and I think maybe some other projects have forked it, or they are at least using the Jenkins X fork for sure. So this was functionality that was originally built into the Drone server as a way to kind of abstract away these interactions and make them portable. And then when the Drone developers realized that's why they decided to split it out. So the library provides all kinds of functionality around interacting with an SCM, like retrieving commits, tags, branches, pull request events, yeah, you name it. And all of that can be abstracted away without knowing the specifics of the SCM. I'm just going by a template that was handed off to me. So that's what I have in this document here. So how this aligns potentially with the CDF charter, I would say that the library can assist in source code interactions for Golang projects in a vendor neutral way. Our code of conduct in the project is the CNCF code of conduct. The license is the BSD2 clause patent. This is the link to the repo. It's under the Drone GitHub organization. Right now, issues are in the repository. For external dependencies, it actually only has a few. If you want to go look through the go.mod file, I think this is it, just these three. As far as work to release the project, it doesn't produce an artifact, right? It's just it's a library, but there is a CI pipeline, and there's a release procedure documented in the README. As far as contributors, I grabbed a list of the most frequent contributors through the Git log here. I'm not sure how important that is, but beyond that, the template had questions around governance and maturity level that I'm not sure if I know how to answer. But then I provided some more links to documentation and the community. Brad Brzezinski, who created Drone, he's on the call. If we need more context, he has the most context around the project and where it's being used and the history of it. But that is what I had prepared.
Great, thanks, Jim. Folks have questions?
Given that this project was forked and is used by Jenkins X, how do we stand as far as, formally how we can bring this project in to the foundation?
That is a great question. They have certainly diverged.
So I maintain the Jenkins X part of it. We have quite a few changes, like 774 commits more than Drone, and Drone has 334 commits more than us. So I would really like if we can consolidate and maybe have one repo where, like everyone can I mean, like that can be used by all, but it will be a lot of work to like consolidate the Jenkins X fork with the drone fork, like with, sorry, not fork, but like the drone Go, SCM repo.
I think the good news is, we've done some analysis prior to this meeting, and they seem to have diverged in different areas. On the drone and the harness side, we've invested a lot in tighter integrations around things like creating files and creating commits. And it looks like on the Jenkins X side, there's been a lot of work on webhooks. So I think, we've also been focusing on adding support for a number of additional vendors, like supporting the Azure DevOps Git offering, and a couple additional SCM offerings. I think Git, which is a company out of China. So we've added a number of additional vendors. So I think the good news is our focus areas seems to be in different parts of the code. So hopefully that simplifies it a bit.
Yeah, that would be great.
And would it make sense the way, and I don't know how the code is laid out, but would it make sense to have like a core reusable piece, and then two different parts that are, one's like Jenkins X specific, and then the other part's more of the, like you said, the other part? Or does it make sense to try to merge it into a single repository? What's kind of the thought process you guys have in mind?
So yeah, I mean, I can give some high level thoughts on that. So I think there's a fair amount that needs to be merged into one repository. On the Jenkins X side, certainly all the work they've done around adding support for additional webhook and event types. They've done some nice improvements to the error handling with more granular error messaging. So that would be great to bring into the core. There's some things I would advocate splitting out. When you saw that presentation that Jim gave, you notice there's only 3 dependencies. Those dependencies are not runtime dependencies. They are only unit test dependencies. On the Jenkins X side, it does look like it's brought in some, what I would describe as some heavyweight Go dependencies, like Kubernetes and stuff like that in the Go mod. So I would love to see, and those seem to be mainly for examples. So I would love to see, if possible, could we have like a separate repository for examples, so we could eliminate some of those dependencies, for some of the Go purists like myself that just want, the bare minimum. But yeah, I mean, it'd be a ton of work, but it's something we would agree to, and we would love to spearhead.
Yeah, I can try to, like take a look at it and see if we can remove some of, like the external stuff. I don't really like that we are using Go and we keep on bringing, like third-party stuff when, the standard stuff is good enough. So yeah, I will, like take a look at it. So we should probably try to sync sometime in the coming months or so. Maybe the drone, like community and like Jenkins X, we can probably drive this, like together. So.
And then from a governance perspective, would you try to merge or just create a new governance structure? Or would you try to bring in folks from the Jenkins X into the drone side? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, my thought would be, maybe we could, we could create like a neutral organization or put this in a neutral place. So it wasn't, it wasn't in drone, it wasn't in Jenkins. We could find a neutral org. I think, in terms of governance, we would look for, the CD Foundation for everyone's help on here for building a healthy community and figuring out the governance model. When I was doing the drone project, it was a very large, open source community, but we were very resource constrained. So, you know, I would say we were open source, but there was a lot of room for improvement on how we did and on how we do community. So, you know, there's, you know, I think there's a lot we could improve upon on the drone side. So I would rather take cues from the CD Foundation and maybe start from scratch or develop something new.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fair. I know sometimes starting from scratch, it's easier to get everything lined up and all the ducks in a row than trying to turn things from 2 different angles. Thanks. All right, one more question for me. What's your time frame that you're looking at? Are you trying to do you know, get this whole thing rolling within the next month or 2 or 6 months, a year?
Yeah, we didn't really have a time frame in mind. I think the idea was to gauge interest. And if, you know, if there's interest, it's something we can come back and, you know, maybe myself and I don't know if it was that Ankit from the Jenkins X team, you know, maybe we can come up with a plan and figure out some timelines.
Sounds good.
Okay, so as far as bringing it in, oh, sorry, Andrea, you had a question. Go first.
Go ahead, Melissa.
As far as bringing it into the foundation, I guess we just need to decide what decisions need to be made beforehand before we make that formal decision. What is necessary? You know, you've worked on, you know, a lot of the documentation, trying to figure out the governance structure and things like that. So where do we draw the line? And maybe Fatih, you could answer this question. At what point would we vote on something like this?
Yeah, I think once the initial analysis is done and presented to TOC, this can be discussed again, like, because now we have 2 repos there, one original upstream and the other one fork. So if, like, I've seen also conversation on the Slack, on the chat as well, like the way to go could be starting a fresh, you know, organization, like how CDNs was, you know, created, and then that could be, you know, brought into TOC saying that we want to start with clean slate. This is the project we, you know, want to propose to the CD Foundation. But yeah, if a plan could be created with, you know, best way forward, then TOC can advise that, and then we can discuss with legal, because it's kind of a different situation. It's not like CD events from scratch. It's not like a project joining. It's like combining efforts to make this more, you know, accessible and community-oriented thing. And we can do that in parallel to Bradley and Ankit.
And what are the
guidance?
What are the licenses for both projects under?
I believe they're both BSD 2 clause.
Okay.
And then we do have like a CLA in place. So should we need to change to an Apache 2, or if there's a preferred license, I don't see that being an issue.
No, the BSD is fine. It doesn't have to be Apache 2 or anything like that. So. Andrea, did you have a question?
Sorry, it was muted. Yeah, I was trying to understand what the community looked like for the original project today. Is there contribution by different organizations, or is it one company behind it? Just to understand what the shape of the community is today.
Yeah, so we do get external contributions. So we've gotten contributions from companies like Mesos, a number of other open source projects. There's a couple of other open source CI vendors that are using and contributing to the project. Obviously, we use it internally harness, both in the harness products and in the drone project. And then on the fork side, there's Jenkins X and Tecton as well.
Cool. Great. Yeah. So I guess if there was one single converged project with the new governance, I guess the community would also probably converge on that. I definitely, I know that on techno side for sure there is interest in looking at what it would take to use the original Go SCM, because I don't think we have very specific dependency on any Jenkins on any feature that is implemented on the Jenkins fork, but yeah, we need to assess that. But yeah, so I think it would be definitely welcome from technical side if there was just one project as well, like to want to contribute to for sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think on that note, Andrea, I think we'd have to figure out, like, probably lay out like a migration path of how folks go from the existing Go SCM and the Jenkins X to the new one. So I think that would be something that we'd have to look at to help end users navigate the waters there.
Going to ask if we have a preferred way of going with next steps. Should we start an email thread?
I'd like to see it in Slack. Actually, I think that'd be great to keep up with all the threads.
That works.
Looks like y'all are getting a second date. That's cool.
So next step would be
great. Oh, sorry, my dog.
so a thread in Slack to kind of discuss between the two existing projects on the way forward.
Yep, I think our focus is on governance, how we're going to wrangle the community into, one spot. Your words are better than mine, note taker. Appreciate that.
All right. Okay, so that's kind of next step. Anything else we need to do in parallel as a next step? I
think a good channel to start that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just signed up. I'm in the general channel. Is there a better channel?
I don't think
Should we
there is a
create
better
one?
channel, but we could. Yeah, I was going to say.
Do you want to keep it private or is it cool to keep it open? Since this is just the beginning of talks. I'm just asking. I don't know how this works.
I hope it would be open.
It could be open. I don't foresee any problems with that. We have other channels out there like CD events, Persia, the SIG events. So I think adding just another channel will probably be the easiest way to keep the conversation in the same bucket.
So Shall I create one? Do you have a preferred name? Go SCM community, Go SCM governance.
That's gonna be the first step, deciding what the project name is gonna be.
Okay, I'll just start with
The hardest step.
creating one called Go SCM. We can always change
Yeah.
the name later. Okay. So please go and join the Go SCM channel and we can continue chatting there. All right. So I think we said that having some decision on this, how to bring the communities together, would be kind of a prerequisite to move forward really with the donation of the project to the CDF and with the proposal. Is the plan a prerequisite, or its implementation a prerequisite?
I think we just need a high level plan, kind of like a roadmap on how the two groups envision things moving forward. And I think that will help us drive a lot of decisions about, you know, creating repos and all the logistics that happen after that. So I think we should get that roadmap kind of written down, and then we review it at one of our next TOC meetings, and from there we can kind of move forward with the step after that. That's what I would suggest. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated, the roadmap, you know.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. What do you guys think? Gene, Bradley, does that sound like a good plan for you?
Sounds great.
That's good.
Yep. Okay. All right. I just realized we're at time. I'm sorry. Justin, you had another topic in the agenda. Can we discuss it next time? Is that?
I'll ping you directly and see if you can answer.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today, and until next time.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Morning.